So if you looked at the chat history of a college student using generative AI today, what do you think you'd actually find?
I mean, I think most people would assume it's just a long, repetitive list of prompts saying, write my midterm paper on the French Revolution, or summarize this book I didn't read.
Right. Yeah, that is the overwhelming panic right now, isn't it? The whole narrative that learning is dead and the robots are doing all the thinking.
Exactly.
But, well, new data tracking actual unfiltered chat logs shows that less than 9% of final submitted projects are actually AI-generated text. Like, the robots are absolutely not writing our essays, but they're entirely rewiring how we speak and think and argue.
Yeah, we are definitely moving past that initial shock phase of this technology and entering a phase where the data reveals some truly bizarre human behavior. I mean, the assumptions we make about technology usually fall apart the second you look at how people actually use it.
Which, honestly, is our mission for this deep dive. For you listening, we've gathered this fascinating stack of 2026 academic research spanning the US, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey.
It's a very global look at the data.
It really is. And the goal is to look at exactly how humans are interacting with AI for language and learning and, how it's actually changing our brains, our resilience, and even our conversational etiquette. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, the easiest place to start is dismantling that ghostwriter myth. Researchers in the U.S. decided to just stop asking students what they were doing because, well, self-reporting is notoriously unreliable.
Oh, completely.
Right. So instead, they analyzed the college students' actual ChatGPT chat logs alongside their final submitted writing projects.
Think of it like a messy browser history, just like revealing their unedited thought process.
Exactly. And out of nearly 300 prompts logged by these students, less than a fifth asked the AI to directly generate text.
Wow, less than 20%.
Yeah. The vast majority of the time, they were using it as a study buddy. They asked for revision help about 24% of the time, or they asked the AI to break down complex course materials.
So they're just treating it like a tutor.
Exactly. Chat logs don't lie. They offer a window into the exact cognitive sequence the user went through. And this leads to that figure you mentioned at the beginning. Only 8.2% of their final submitted text was actually AI generated.
Which totally shatters the whole AI is doing all the work argument.
It really does.
But, okay, I do want to push back on the rosy picture here for a second, though. Because the researchers found a massive gap when they split the data between native English speakers and English as a foreign language, or EFL students.
Yeah, that was a surprising split.
Right. So if they aren't using it to cheat, why did the native speakers ask the AI for understanding and clarification a whopping 34% of the time, while the EFL students only asked for clarification about 5% of the time? The students who arguably needed the most help understanding language nuances were asking for it the least.
Well, what's fascinating here is that it comes down to the cognitive load of formulating a question.
How do you mean?
Think about it. If you don't fully grasp a language, trying to explain your specific confusion to a machine is incredibly difficult. Lower proficiency users often just don't know how to ask the AI to explain a concept.
Oh, I see. So they just treat it like a translator.
Exactly. They default to treating it like a pure translation or grammar correction tool rather than a tutor. They ask for direct writing support because, well, that's easier to prompt than a nuanced question about syntax.
But wait, the data showed the EFL students actually integrated less AI text into their final work. Their papers were only 5.2% AI generated, compared to the native speakers' nearly 10%.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive.
Yeah. If they're asking for more direct writing help, why on earth are they using less of it?
Because they don't fully understand the output they receive. The AI gives them a beautifully corrected paragraph, but since they never asked the AI to explain why it made those changes, they can't verify if it's accurate.
Or if it even still sounds like them.
Right. That hesitation is the invisible barrier. They aren't treating the AI like a tutor because they lack the specific literacy required to interrogate the machine.
That invisible barrier brings us perfectly into the concept of AI literacy. It's clearly not just having access to a chatbot. it's knowing how to drive it.
Yeah, and researchers in China are arguing that we've been conceptualizing AI literacy entirely wrong. It's not just prompt engineering.
You're like memorizing a few magic phrases to get a better output.
Exactly. They emphasize a conceptual framework built around criticality.
Criticality, meaning you aren't just blindly accepting whatever the machine spits out.
Exactly. It requires multiple dimensions, setting a clear intention, understanding application, evaluating the output critically, and considering the ethics like spotting AI hallucinations or biases.
Let's ground that for a second. Think about the last time you used AI to draft an email at work. Did you just accept the first draft it gave you?
Probably not.
Right. You probably argued with it, saying, no, this is way too formal, rewrite it to sound more casual. That argument, that pushback, is criticality in action. You are spotting its biases, in this case, its tendency to sound like a corporate robot, and forcing it to adjust.
Which is actually a very high-level critical thinking skill. You have to recognize when the AI's quote-unquote perfect grammar is actually erasing your personal voice.
Because it sounds so advanced, you'd think it would take semesters of grueling work to teach. But educational researchers in Hong Kong tested this in low-resource secondary schools.
And the setup here was really interesting.
Yeah, they took these students and tested 2 interventions to build this literacy. One group took an 8-week extended course. The other group did a rapid 4-hour intensive workshop.
And honestly, a 4-hour workshop seems like barely enough time to scratch the surface of a technology this complex. You would naturally assume the 8-week course would produce a much deeper, more permanent shift.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Both interventions resulted in a massive, equally significant spike in AI literacy.
It's incredible.
The 4-hour group got just as good at writing better prompts, modifying AI outputs, and critically evaluating ethics as the 8-week group.
That lack of a difference is a huge revelation. What were they doing in those 4 hours that was so uniquely effective?
Well, they weren't teaching coding or abstract computer science theory. The 4 hours focused heavily on rapid, hands-on failure.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, students were intentionally given bad AI outputs and tasked with tearing them apart and forcing the AI to fix them. It was an immediate mindset shift from treating the AI as an all-knowing oracle to treating it as a flawed, rough draft.
A mindset shift is the key phrase there. Once you realize the machine is fallible, you don't need 8 weeks of practice to start questioning it. You just need the permission and the basic vocabulary to push back.
So if a simple 4-hour workshop is all it takes to permanently rewire how we use the tool, what does a perfectly designed tool actually look like? Like if we want to help those users who get stuck staring at a blank chat box, how do we build a better interface for them?
Well, we have to recognize that open-ended free chat is a terrible interface for a beginner. The blinking cursor of an empty chat window leaves you stranded if you don't already know what you want to ask.
We need to build in guardrails.
Exactly. We shouldn't just be training the humans. We should be designing the systems to force this critical literacy.
And there's a brilliant blueprint for this. From a study out of Saudi Arabia, researchers built a customized AI agent directly into an online learning platform for university undergraduates. But they didn't just give them a ChatGPT window. They created a highly restrictive, hard-coded loop.
This is what the researchers call a traceable, prompt-scaffolded, generative AI feedback agent.
Okay, let's translate that out of academia for a second. When a student submitted a sentence, the AI didn't just rewrite it for them. First, it diagnosed the writing. Second, it explained the specific grammatical rule the student messed up.
Okay, so diagnosing and explaining.
Third, and this is crucial, it completely refused to fix the sentence. It forced the learner to rewrite it themselves based on the explanation. Then the AI verified the new sentence and gave them a micro-practice exercise.
Oh, wow. It completely disrupts the passive consumption of AI text. The system confines the failure space so that the practice is actually productive.
Right, and the outcomes were striking. Students using this scaffolded system showed significantly better explicit grammar knowledge.
And much greater morphological complexity compared to those using standard teaching or free AI access.
Morphological complexity meaning they weren't just writing simple, rigid noun-verb sentences anymore. They were confidently experimenting with complex verb tenses entirely on their own because the system guided them there. It's basically like bowling with bumper lanes.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Think about it. Instead of the AI throwing the ball for you and writing the essay, the bumpers just keep your ball out of the gutter by diagnosing and explaining. But it forces you to knock down the pins by doing the rewriting yourself.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the bumper lane analogy captures it perfectly because it highlights the active role of the learner. The heavy lifting is still being done by the human brain.
Absolutely.
And there's another major benefit to the system for the educator's traceability. Because the system is built on these templated, restricted prompts, it automatically logs timestamps and revision cycle markers.
So the teacher can see the entire history of the interaction. They can see the student throw the ball, hit the bumper, adjust their stance, and throw it again.
Exactly. It solves the transparency problem for educators. It proves that AI feedback, when combined with human verification routines, creates profound learning rather than just automation.
It turns the AI into a transparent cognitive gym. So, okay, we've established how AI scaffolds writing, but what happens when you take away the keyboard? What happens when you start talking out loud to it?
Oh, this is where it gets really wild.
Right, because the dynamics of voice interaction totally expose the current limits of AI as a conversationalist.
Well, writing gives you the luxury of asynchronous thought, you know? You have time to edit before you hit send. Voice is immediate. It demands a completely different type of interactional competence.
For sure. And language researchers in Taiwan recently ran an experiment where high school students did voice interactions with ChatGPT twice a week.
And their fluency improved, right?
Their oral fluency and the actual content of their speech improved immensely. But surprisingly, their enjoyment and their grit absolutely skyrocketed.
Grit is a fascinating metric to look at here. Why did their resilience increase so much just by talking to a computer program?
Because the AI is completely non-judgmental. If you're learning a language and you mispronounce a word to a human teacher 3 times in a row, you feel embarrassed, right? You freeze up.
Oh, definitely. The anxiety is real.
But the AI doesn't care. It creates a safe space to fail repeatedly. It forces the students to persistently fix their verbal prompts to be understood, and they never lose face.
That psychological safety is a massive advantage. But there is a catch when it comes to conversational AI. And a 3-month longitudinal study from the System Journal out of South Korea highlights this beautifully.
Yes, the study tracking the student named Min.
Right. They tracked Min across 30 different voice role plays with AI. They analyzed every single pause, every turn.
And they discovered that ChatGPT is actually a slightly annoying conversation partner.
It really is. It has severe conversational limitations. For one, it operates on rigid pause thresholds. If Min paused for even a second to think of a word, the AI assumed he was finished and would instantly interrupt him.
So rude.
And AI cannot provide natural back-channeling.
Back-channeling, like those little human noises we make.
Yeah.
The yeah-ahs, the I see, the nods, the things that signal, I'm listening, keep going.
Exactly. AI doesn't do that. It just waits in dead silence. And when it does reply, its answers are often way too long.
It's like talking to someone at a dinner party who just waits for you to take a breath so they can start their own lecture.
Right, but the breakthrough in the study is how Min adapted to this. He evolved. He went from being a passive responder to actively initiating terms.
How so?
Well, when the AI rudely interrupted him because he took a breath, Min learned how to reclaim his turn and assertively bring the conversation back to his point.
Wait, so is interacting with an AI making us better at human conversation, or just training us to be really aggressive interrupters to beat the algorithm's pause threshold?
That is the million-dollar question. The researchers clarify that AI roleplay is sufficient but incomplete.
Meaning?
It builds incredible interactional competence and syntactic complexity. I mean, Min's use of subordinate clauses jumped from 31 to 89. He was forced to construct a complex arguments on the fly just to hold his ground.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
It is, but it absolutely does not replicate human empathy. It proves that the listener needs to design prompts with interaction rules.
Like what?
Like literally telling the AI reply in 1 or 2 sentences and wait 3 seconds before responding.
We have to teach the machine how to be a polite listener so we can learn how to be better speakers. That is a wild frontier of communication.
It redefines the entire concept of a language partner.
Okay, so throughout this whole deep dive, we focused on the learner. We need 4-hour workshops, scaffolded guardrails, explicit voice etiquette. But who is designing all of this? The educators. And data out of Turkey reveals that they are navigating this in the dark.
This is perhaps the most critical yet overlooked piece of the AI puzzle. Researchers conducted interviews with in-service English teachers, and the revelation is that they're secretly using AI as metacognitive scaffolding.
Meaning they aren't just using it to instantly generate a quiz, they're acting as a customized chatbot to help them prep, reflect on their own teaching, and generate materials.
Exactly. But the problem is they lack formal institutional support. Because schools aren't training them, teachers are relying entirely on informal underground peer networks to figure out ethical usage and reliability.
So what does this all mean? The irony here is staggering. Society is obsessed with whether students are relying too much on AI, but meanwhile, teachers are forced to rely on unofficial peer networks just to survive the technological shift.
Which is why we desperately need teacher-facing chatbots. We can't just give teachers a list of tools. They need training and reliability checking, ethical use, and localized adaptation so they can translate AI outputs into real-world classroom materials.
Right. You can't expect someone to build the cognitive gym if you haven't given them the architectural blueprints.
Absolutely.
So, wrapping up this incredible journey of the sources today, we've seen that AI isn't just a magical shortcut. When used properly, it's a mirror reflecting our own cognitive processes.
It takes a 4-hour literacy workshop, scaffolded guardrails, and a whole lot of grit to use it right. Whether you're a college student learning to revise, Min fighting for his turn to speak, or a teacher prepping a lesson.
For you listening, the real value of AI isn't getting it to generate the perfect answer.
Right. The value is the cognitive workout you get by evaluating, pushing back against, and refining what the AI gives you.
The struggle is the feature, not the bug. Which leaves me with one final lingering question for you to mull over as you go about your day. We spent all this time talking about how humans are learning to speak the language of AI, adjusting our pauses, modifying our prompts, scaffolding our thoughts. But as we spend more time talking to algorithms that don't say uh-huh and don't feel empathy, are we training the AI to be more human? Or are we slowly training ourselves to communicate more like machines?